All right, so for today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Klein Tools D248-9ST side cutting pliers. Now, these are more geared towards the iron workers out there or the concrete workers out there for twisting and cutting the wire that ties rebar together. But I'm not going to do that. I'm, just a heating and cooling guy, and I picked these up with a pair of the Ironworker. I believe it was a 7-inch pair of Ironworker pliers a year or so ago that I reviewed here on the channel. I picked them up in a kit, and this is finally getting around to making a video on these. So it's, pretty much like a standard pair of Klein diagonal cutters. They do have the kind of, I wouldn't really call it red, it's like a burgundy dip handle on there, which is nice. And then just like some of the other Ironworker pliers out there, they have this little bend to them. I'm not quite sure if that's for, comfort for holding it in the hand or what that's for, but standard pliers, they don't typically have that on there. And then coming to the face of the plier, you have the Klein Tools name. And like most, if not all, of Klein's pliers are made in the USA, so this is no exception. So you do have that there right on the tool. And you do have your model number, and then you do have some safety warnings right there. And I'm not sure if this is a production code. I have never really been able to figure that out, if this is a production code to tell when the tool was made. But that is that right there. It's on both sides of the tool, and this is the other side of the tool. Now this does have an offset to it, so I know some guys like the offset versus just a straight pair of pliers. Generally the offset is good for getting in electrical boxes, or if you're having to try and pop out some staples, or you're trying to pull out a screw, or not a screw, a nail. Generally that edge kind of gives you a nice leverage point that you can go and pry with. So that's kind of why, you see manufacturers coming out with these angled head tools. Other than that, they're pretty much like a standard pair of diagonal cutters. I'm not sure if these are rated to cut through heavy material or heavy wire, kind of like their D2000 series is. I'm not sure if these fall under that category. I've never really worked with rebar wire, so I'm not sure how hard or soft that wire is. But that's mainly what these are meant to cut through. But I don't have any of that here, so we're just going to go ahead and cut through some just, normal wire right here. So we do have, I believe this is 12-stranded wire. It's either 12 or 14, I can't remember. And these pliers just blast through it without an issue. It's super smooth cut when cutting through there. And then the jaws on them are relatively sharp. You can use them to strip wire if you so needed to. So that is pretty nice. Sometimes Klein pliers can be hit or miss with sharpness. It mainly comes down to those two ends meeting, if there's a gap or not, or if one's offset from the other. It's kind of an offset edge on there. Typically, you'll go to cut through the wire. It'll cut through the wire, but it won't, the wire won't shoot off of it. Like you see there, it kind of gets either stuck on the wire, it's not quite cut through all the way, or it kind of hangs out in the tool, or hangs out in that little opening right there. That's just something I've noticed. So that was just some 10, 12 or 14 gauge wire. These guys blast through that without any issue. And then we do also have some insulation right here. Typically you find this in some MC cable that has, I believe it's 4 or more conductors on the inside of it. And this can sometimes be a little bit challenging to cut. Sometimes a couple of my pairs of wire strippers struggle to cut, insulation out of 18.4 or 18.8 wire. So we'll go ahead and see if these guys, they should be able to power through this without an issue, and they power through that insulation without an issue. Cuts through it like butter, honestly. So we'll go ahead and move that out of the way, and then we'll bring in some smaller gauge wire, some 18 gauge wire, probably about, I would say, maybe the same thickness as the rebar wire, just not as hard, copper being a little bit softer of a metal. And these just cut, you barely feel that they're even cutting through that little 18 gauge wire right there. And then we have some MC right here. Pretty common wire here to use when doing when in commercial work. Generally residential, you don't see a lot of this. You mainly see this in commercial buildings. Residential, you're going to see a lot of Romex. But you see a lot of this MC wire in commercial buildings. Instead of running, you know, all conduit with the wire running through them, they generally just run some MC. So we'll go ahead and get this guy to cut some MC. Now, it can be a little bit tricky to cut some MC with it. Just because the head's a little bit smaller and it's, you know, a fairly decent sized wire. But we'll go ahead and cut through that, and as you see, they are able to power through that MC without any issue. And another good thing you can use, you know, a good pair of diagonal cutters for is after you break the MC and you figure out how much of it you need, you can go in there and cut the part off that you don't need, and then you can go ahead and bend it back, bend back what you don't want right there, and then just kind of chop it up with it and break that guy off. And this does also feature some insulation there on the inside, being a 3 conductor. It's just not as big of a piece of insulation. So there you go. So overall, these are definitely a nice pair of diagonal cutters. I'm not really a big fan of the offsets, to be honest, but then again, I generally not having to pull out staples or nails from wood. So I can't really attest to say that I've really had to do that. So I'm sure if you have to do that, you know, maybe you're demoing out some old wiring and, you know, it's stapled to some 2x4s or whatever, this probably come in handy. Instead of cutting through it, you can just pop those staples out and continue to demo the wire. I've never had to do that, so I can't really, you know, speak highly on angled pliers. To me, they're just, you know, a standard pair of cut, just like my standard pair of cutters, just with the angled head. So with that being said, that's pretty much it for this video. I will leave a couple links in the description below if you're looking to pick yourself up a pair of these or you want to find out some more information about these. But with that being said, that's all I have for this video. Thanks for watching.